The voting chamber smelled like ozone and fear. Ambassador Patricia Cole watched alien delegates argue over trade sanctions while their worlds hung in the balance. 300 species packed into tiered seating, each representative trying to shout louder than the others. Nobody noticed the small human delegation sitting in the back corner. Patricia adjusted her tablet and checked the incoming data streams. The numbers made her stomach tight. 60 days, maybe less. A Dravik commander slammed 6 arms against his podium. My fleet contains 12,000 warships. We demand priority protection for our colonies. The Sara ambassador hissed through her translator. Your ships are outdated scrap. Our naval force numbers 20,000 vessels with modern shielding. More shouting, more chest beating. Patricia had attended these sessions for 30 years and the pattern never changed. Everyone claimed strength until real danger appeared. Then the truth came out in panic and desperation. The harvesters were coming. Ancient machine intelligence that had already consumed 3 galaxies. Their fleet stretched across light years, millions of vessels working with perfect coordination. Scouts reported the machines stripped entire star systems down to atoms, feeding some incomprehensible hunger that never stopped. The council had 14 days of debate scheduled. Committees would form. Subcommittees would argue. Eventually, someone would suggest sending a diplomatic envoy to negotiate with entities that had never communicated with organic life. Patricia sent a coded message to Earth. Response came back in seconds. Authorization granted. Begin revelation protocol. She stood and pressed her request button. The chamber's AI ignored her for 10 minutes while bigger delegations fought for speaking time. Humans ranked low on the political ladder. Useful builders who constructed stations and mining facilities but contributed little to galactic affairs. Nobody feared humans. Nobody respected them either. Finally, the session chair, a floating gas being named Chorus, acknowledged her with obvious reluctance. The human delegation wishes to speak. I request an emergency session for tomorrow, Patricia said. Her voice carried clearly despite not being amplified. Humanity has a proposal regarding the harvester crisis. Laughter rippled through the chamber. A Kreeth merchant made a rude gesture with his tentacles. What will you do? Build them a nice space station. Perhaps offer construction services. More laughter. Patricia waited until it died down. Tomorrow, 2 hours after dawn cycle, I promise you'll want to hear this. Chorus consulted with other senior delegates. They were curious despite their mockery. Humans rarely requested speaking time. When they did, it usually involved practical engineering solutions to infrastructure problems. Granted, Chorus announced. Emergency session tomorrow. This had better not waste our time, Ambassador Cole. Patricia gathered her materials and walked out while arguments about fleet deployments resumed behind her. Her assistant, a young man named Robert, fell into step beside her. They think we're going to offer to build defensive platforms, Robert said quietly. Let them think that for one more day, Patricia replied. Their shuttle departed from the station and headed toward the human residential sector. Through the viewport, Patricia could see the chaos spreading across council space. Ships were moving everywhere. Civilian transports fled toward the galactic core. Military vessels rushed to defensive positions that wouldn't hold for 5 minutes against what was coming. Robert pulled up holographic displays showing the harvester advance. The projections were terrifying. At current speed, the machine fleet would reach the first populated systems in 62 days. Initial contact would be a massacre. Do you think they'll believe us? Robert asked. Patricia considered the question. Humans had spent 3 centuries building a reputation as quiet, competent engineers. They took construction contracts from everyone, built stations, habitats, mining facilities, fixed broken ships, designed efficient cargo systems, never complained, never demanded political power, just worked steadily in the background while other species competed for dominance. Every contract taught humanity something new: Dravik shield technology, Essara weapon systems, Kreeth energy cores, Chorus navigation computers. 300 species, each contributing pieces to a puzzle they didn't know existed. The worthless systems helped too. Humans claimed territory nobody else wanted: barren rocks, empty space, asteroid fields with low mineral content. Other species laughed at the strange human desire to own useless real estate. Nobody was watching those systems. Nobody cared what happened there. "They'll believe the evidence," Patricia said. "Whether they accept what it means is another question." The shuttle docked at human quarters. Patricia headed straight for the communications center. Her staff had already prepared everything. Tomorrow would change the galaxy's power structure forever. Some species would react with gratitude, others with rage and fear. She opened an encrypted channel to Fleet Command. Admiral Douglas Grant appeared on screen, his gray hair and weathered face showing decades of military service. "Is it time?" Douglas asked. "Revelation protocol is active. Tomorrow morning I show them everything." Douglas nodded slowly. "The fleet is ready. All 47 vessels are fully operational. Crews have been running combat drills for 3 months. We can launch within 48 hours of your signal." Patricia looked at the star charts behind Douglas. Each marked position represented a construction site 300 years in the making. Facilities disguised as moons, asteroids, or space debris. Resources gathered slowly to avoid detection. Millions of workers who kept secrets their entire lives. "The Council still thinks we're just builders," she said. "We are builders," Douglas replied. "We built the only things that can stop what's coming. See you on the other side, Ambassador." The channel closed. Patricia sat alone in the dark communications center and thought about tomorrow. 3 centuries of preparation would be revealed in a single presentation. Everything humanity had worked for would be tested against an enemy that had conquered galaxies. She pulled up images of the harvesters: cold machine precision. No mercy, no negotiation, just consumption. Tomorrow the galaxy would learn what humans built, while everyone else was watching. The holographic star map filled the entire emergency session chamber. Patricia stood at the center while 300 species watched with growing confusion. She had uploaded complete survey data of human-claimed territory, every system marked in blue. A Dravik general was first to voice what everyone was thinking. "Why did you claim over 200 systems? Most of these have no strategic value whatsoever." Patricia smiled. "That's exactly why we claimed them, because nobody would fight us for worthless space. Nobody would watch what we did there." She expanded the view on a system designated as Sector 71. Barren planets orbiting a dying star. Nothing worth mining. No habitable worlds. Every survey marked it as useless. "This is what your scouts saw 30 years ago," Patricia said. "The display showed empty space and lifeless rocks. This is what's actually there." She switched to current data. The chamber erupted in noise. The largest planet in the system wasn't a planet at all. Detailed scans revealed a hollow metal sphere the size of a small world. Massive engines, weapon arrays, power cores generating energy equal to a star. "You built a battleship the size of a planet," Chorus demanded, his gaseous form swirling with agitation. "We built 47 of them," Patricia replied calmly. She brought up all the locations at once. Each dot on the map represented a vessel disguised as celestial debris, moons that were actually war machines, asteroids that contained weapons beyond anything the Council possessed, every site chosen specifically because nobody would look twice. The Essara ambassador recovered her composure first. "This is impossible. The resource requirements alone would bankrupt a dozen species. The construction time would take millennia." 300 years, Patricia corrected. We started the first vessel 2 years after humanity joined the galactic community. Every construction contract we accepted taught us new techniques. Every species we worked for shared their technology, usually without realizing it. We learned from everyone. Robert activated another display showing construction timelines. 47 parallel projects across 3 centuries. Millions of human workers who spent entire careers building vessels they would never see completed. Resources gathered slowly from asteroid mining operations that appeared routine. A Creeth military analyst was studying the technical specifications. These power signatures are impossible. What kind of energy source generates this much output? Contained artificial stars, Patricia answered. Fusion reactions regulated by gravity manipulation technology we developed from Dravik shields and SARA plasma cores. Each vessel has enough fuel to operate for 2,000 years. The chamber descended into chaos. Accusations flew. Some delegates called the data fabricated. Others demanded to know why humanity deceived the council. A few voices thanked humans for preparing when nobody else had. Patricia waited for the noise to die down. You're welcome to verify everything. We've transmitted coordinates for all 47 vessels. Send your own scouts. Use your own sensors. The data will match. Chorus managed to restore some order. Assuming this is real, why reveal it now? You could have maintained this secret indefinitely. Because the harvesters are 60 days from Council space, Patricia said. Because your combined fleets won't stop them. Because we built these vessels specifically to fight an enemy like this. She brought up intelligence files humanity had compiled. Data recovered from the edges of consumed galaxies. Analysis of harvester technology and tactics. 3 centuries of study focused on a threat most species barely acknowledged. We knew they were coming, Patricia continued. Ancient records from extinct civilizations mentioned the pattern. Machine intelligence appearing at galactic edges. Systematic consumption. Unstoppable advance. We found enough evidence to convince our leadership this threat was real. A Dravik commander asked the obvious question. Why didn't you warn us? Why not share this information decades ago? Would you have believed us? Patricia challenged. A junior species claiming ancient machine destroyers would attack within 300 years. You would have dismissed it as primitive paranoia. Instead, we prepared. We built. We watched. The SARA ambassador's scales flushed dark purple with anger. You manipulated us. Every contract, every friendly interaction, you were stealing our technology. We learned from you, Patricia corrected. Everything was freely shared. You showed us how your systems worked when we built your stations. We just paid attention and remembered. Nobody stole anything. More arguments, more accusations. Patricia let them vent. She understood the betrayal they felt. For 3 centuries, humans had played the role of helpful juniors, competent but unthreatening. Now that image shattered, replaced by something that terrified them. Robert whispered urgently. Long-range probes are returning data from the coordinates. They're confirming the vessels exist. Multiple species received verification simultaneously. The chamber fell silent as delegates processed the evidence. Massive artificial constructs disguised as natural objects. Weapon systems that dwarfed anything in Council arsenals. Crews of millions living inside each vessel. Finally, a young Creeth scientist spoke up. Show us what they can do. Show us these vessels fighting. Patricia shook her head. You'll see them fight soon enough. The harvesters won't turn back, but I can show you the capabilities. She displayed weapon specifications. Rail cannons firing projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. Energy weapons powered by artificial stars. Missiles carrying warheads that could crack moons. Shields capable of withstanding sustained bombardment from entire fleets. 1 vessel equals your combined military strength, Patricia said. We have 47. The harvesters have millions of ships, but they've never faced anything like this. Chorus floated forward. When can your fleet deploy? 48 hours. All vessels are fully crewed and operational. We've been running combat drills for months. Admiral Douglas Grant commands the fleet. He's waiting for my authorization. The session chair consulted with senior delegates. They argued in hushed voices while everyone else watched. Finally, Chorus turned back to Patricia. Deploy your fleet. Defend council space. We'll deal with political questions later. Right now, survival takes priority. Patricia sent the authorization code. Across human territory, Revelation Protocol entered its final phase. 47 planet-sized warships began waking from their long sleep. Commander Rita Walsh stood in the observation gallery watching her homeworld disappear. Not Earth, not any planet she had visited. Her home for 32 years was a hollowed-out moon called Aegis, and it was leaving orbit for the first time since construction began. The gallery stretched 2 kilometers long with transparent aluminum walls showing space on 3 sides. Crew members gathered to watch history unfold. Some cried, others cheered. Rita just felt the deck vibrate beneath her feet as engines the size of cities ignited. All decks report ready status, her second officer announced through the communication system. Population secure, 12 million souls aboard and accounted for. 12 million. Rita had trouble comprehending the number. Most military vessels carried crews of hundreds or thousands. Aegis held a population equal to a major city. Engineers, pilots, gunners, medical staff, farmers, teachers, children born during construction who had never known another home. The outer shell began separating. Rocky camouflage that had hidden Aegis for a century split along seam lines invisible to external sensors. Massive sections drifted away, revealing the gleaming metal hull underneath. Gun ports opened like awakening eyes. Shield generators hummed to life. The vessel that pretended to be a moon became something else entirely. Rita moved to the command center. The space was enormous, a circular chamber with hundreds of workstations arranged in concentric rings. Holographic displays showed every system's status. Crew members worked with calm efficiency, each person trained for this moment through endless simulations. Communications receiving check-ins from the fleet, her communications officer reported. Guardian reports ready. Sentinel is ready. Defender, Protector, Bastion, all confirming launch status. Across human space, identical scenes played out. 47 vessels that had hidden as asteroids, moons, and space debris were revealing their true nature. Some had orbital populations that needed evacuation. Others had been disguised so perfectly that even humans living nearby never suspected. The tactical display showed fleet convergence points. All vessels were heading toward the galactic frontier where Harvester scouts had been detected. 3 rally positions chosen for strategic value and defensive advantages. Helm set course for Rally Point Alpha, Rita ordered. Maximum cruise speed. I, Commander, engaging gravity drives. Aegis moved, not with chemical rockets or fusion engines. Gravity manipulation technology pulled the massive vessel forward by bending space itself. The effect was smooth, no acceleration pressing crew against bulkheads. They simply began moving at speeds that would have liquefied organic tissue under traditional propulsion. Rita walked through the command center, checking stations. Weapons Officer Murphy confirmed all rail cannons were operational. Shield Technician Williams reported energy cores running at optimal levels. Fighter Bay Coordinator Lee verified all 50,000 small craft were ready for launch. The numbers were insane. 50,000 fighters aboard one vessel, each fighter carrying a crew of 2. That meant 100,000 pilots just for the fighter complement. The capital ship weapon systems required another 200,000 crew. Life support, engineering, medical food production, All the infrastructure needed to keep 12 million people alive required millions more. Her tablet chimed. Message from Admiral Douglas Grant aboard the flagship Resolution. Rita opened the video channel. Commander Walsh, status report, Douglas said. His weathered face showed the strain of coordinating 47 capital ships simultaneously. Aegis is underway, Admiral. All systems optimal. Expected arrival at Rally Point Alpha in 16 hours. Good, be advised, Council observers are tracking the fleet. They're having difficulty processing what they're seeing. Rita smiled. I imagine watching 47 planet-sized warships moving through space takes some adjustment. Understatement of the century. How's crew morale? Mixed, some are excited, others are scared. Most are just focused on their duties. We've trained for this, sir. They'll perform. Douglas nodded. I know they will. We all will, Grant out. The channel closed. Rita pulled up external cameras showing space around Aegis. Several Council scout ships maintained distant observation, their tiny forms barely visible against the stars. Their sensors would be screaming about the impossible power readings, the mass that shouldn't be able to move, the weapons that exceeded theoretical limits. She accessed historical records stored in Aegis's data banks. Files showing construction beginning 120 years ago. The first hull sections assembled in secret. Resources diverted from legitimate mining operations. Workers signing non-disclosure agreements that bound their entire families. Generations building something they believed in even when it seemed impossible. Her own grandmother had worked on Aegis's gravity core installation, never saw the vessel operational, died believing her work mattered. Rita touched the wall panel, feeling the vibration of active systems. Grandma had been right. Commander, we're receiving automated distress calls from frontier colonies, communications reported. Harvester advanced scouts are engaging outer defense platforms. Rita checked the tactical display. Red markers appeared at the galactic edge. Not the main fleet yet. Just scouts probing defenses, testing response times, gathering intelligence. How long until we reach Rally Point Alpha? 15 hours, 40 minutes. Too long. Those colonies would be gone before the human fleet arrived, but rushing would scatter the formation, weaken their coordinated strength. Rita made the hard choice every commander faced. Maintain course and speed. We proceed according to plan. The crew understood. They had all known this war would cost lives. The harvesters didn't negotiate, didn't show mercy. Every calculation suggested millions would die before this ended. The goal was limiting that number, not preventing all casualties. Rita watched the stars slide past as Aegis accelerated. Somewhere ahead, an enemy that had consumed galaxies was approaching. They had never faced humans before, never encountered resistance that could challenge their perfect machine efficiency. The harvesters were about to learn that humans prepared for wars nobody else anticipated. 300 years of construction, generations of workers, trillions of resources invested in vessels designed for one purpose, stopping threats that seemed unstoppable. Rally Point Alpha appeared on long-range sensors. Guardian had already arrived. Sentinel was minutes behind. The fleet was gathering. Soon they would show the galaxy what humans built while everyone else was watching. The Harvester fleet emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal locusts. Bate Rodriguez watched from her fighter cockpit as sensors counted individual vessels. 10,000, 20,000. The numbers kept climbing until the display stopped trying to track them all. All fighters, this is flight control. Stay in formation. Wait for launch authorization. The voice from Aegis sounded calm despite what they were all seeing. Bate tightened her grip on the control stick. Her fighter sat in Launch Bay 7 alongside 49 other craft. Through the cockpit window she could see the bay stretching into the distance, rows of fighters waiting like bullets in a massive gun. This was her third tour aboard Aegis. She had grown up on Earth, joined the military at 18, and spent 15 years training for combat that might never come. Now it was here. The simulations hadn't prepared her for the scale. "Sweet mercy," her gunner whispered over the internal comm. "There's millions of them." Bate pulled up tactical data. Harvester vessels ranged from small corvettes to massive command ships 10 kilometers long, all identical within their class, all moving with perfect coordination. They spread across space in a formation that looked organic despite being pure machine intelligence. The human fleet held position around a colony world with 4 billion inhabitants, 47 planet-sized warships arranged in defensive sphere. Harvester scouts had been probing this system for days, testing response times and weapon ranges. Now the main force had arrived. "All vessels, this is Admiral Grant. Harvesters are moving to attack formation. They're reading our defensive posture as protection of fixed assets. Let them commit." Bate understood the strategy. Humans appeared to be defending the colony world. Harvesters would concentrate forces on breaking through, but the defensive formation was actually a trap, positioning human vessels for maximum crossfire advantage. The Harvester fleet accelerated. 300,000 ships broke from the main group and headed straight for the human line. Their approach was methodical, calculated to overwhelm through sheer numbers. "All fighters launch. All fighters launch. Engage enemy screening vessels." Bate's fighter catapulted forward with 50,000 others. The bay doors opened onto space filled with chaos. Harvester drones were already swarming toward the capital ships. Her heads-up display lit up with target markers. She fired. Particle beams lanced out, connecting with a drone the size of a bus. It exploded in a flash of vaporized metal. Her gunner took out 2 more with the rear cannons. Around them, thousands of similar small battles played out. Then the big guns spoke. Guardian fired first. Its main rail cannon launched a projectile at 30% light speed. Bate's sensors barely tracked it before impact. The round punched through a Harvester command ship and kept going, tearing through 11 more vessels before finally dissipating its energy. One shot, 12 enemy ships destroyed. Sentinel opened fire. Energy beams powered by an artificial star carved through Harvester formations. Shields that stopped conventional weapons popped like soap bubbles. Metal hulls designed to withstand asteroid impacts simply vaporized. The Harvesters returned fire. Millions of weapon systems unleashed concentrated bombardment. Energy washed over human shields like ocean waves against cliffs. The shields held. "Vanguard is moving forward," Bates' tactical officer announced. "They're going for a ram." Bates switched her display to show Vanguard, a vessel slightly smaller than Aegis but still planetary in scale. It accelerated directly into the thickest concentration of Harvester ships. The impact was catastrophic. Vanguard's shields extended outward like a battering ram. Harvester vessels crumpled like paper, their hulls unable to withstand the collision with something that had the mass of a small planet and the momentum of a comet. Vanguard carved a hole through the enemy formation 500 kilometers wide. Destroyed vessels tumbled away or exploded as their power cores ruptured. The path of destruction was visible as a dark streak against the stars. Bate dove her fighter through the debris field, hunting for survivors. A damaged Harvester drone tried to flee. She hit it with a missile, adding 1 more wreck to the thousands already floating dead in space. "Harvesters are adapting," the tactical officer reported. "They're concentrating fire on single targets. Defender is taking heavy damage." Bate pulled up the tactical overview. 70,000 Harvester ships were focusing on Defender, overwhelming its shields through coordinated bombardment. The planet-sized vessel was holding position, but its shields were flickering. Then Defender did something unexpected. It fired every weapon simultaneously. Rail cannons, energy beams, missiles, point defense systems, everything unleashed at once in a sphere of destruction that expanded outward like a collapsing star. Harvester ships within 2,000 kilometers simply ceased to exist. The ones beyond that range took catastrophic damage. Defender's shields failed immediately after. The vessel went dark, its power cores shutting down to emergency levels. But the desperate gambit worked. The concentrated Harvester force was shattered. Rescue operations launching for Defender, Admiral Grant's voice cut through the chaos. All other vessels continue engagement. The battle raged for 6 hours. Bate flew 4 sorties, her fighter returning to Aegis each time for rearmament. She lost count of targets destroyed. The tactical display was a nightmare of red hostile markers that slowly shifted to gray as human weapons found their range. Finally, the Harvesters began retreating. Their machine intelligence calculated the exchange rate was unsustainable. They had destroyed no human capital ships. Defender was damaged but still operational. Meanwhile, over 40% of the attacking force was debris. Bate landed her fighter with shaking hands. Ground crews swarmed the vessel, checking damage and refueling. She climbed out and walked across the bay on legs that felt like rubber. The status board showed casualties. 2,000 fighters lost, 40,000 pilots dead. Defender's crew suffered 12,000 killed when shields failed and several sections breached. But they had won. The first major engagement between humanity and the Harvesters ended with the enemy fleeing. Rita Walsh appeared on every display throughout the fleet. Her face showed exhaustion but determination. All personnel, this is Commander Walsh. The Harvesters are retreating. We've won this engagement, but they're learning. They'll adapt. Next time will be harder. Rest while you can. This war has just begun. Bate made her way to the pilot quarters and collapsed onto her bunk. Through the hull she could feel Aegis's engines humming. The vessel was moving to the next defensive position. Outside, the Harvester main fleet still waited. Millions of ships, all analyzing the battle, all learning how humans fought. The real war was coming. 4 months into the war, Rita Walsh stopped counting the dead. The numbers became too large to process individually. Instead, she focused on keeping Aegis operational while the endless grind of combat wore down everyone aboard. The Harvesters had learned. After the first disastrous engagement, they changed tactics completely. Instead of massing forces, they attacked everywhere simultaneously. 20 systems at once, 30, 40. The human fleet was forced to divide, each vessel defending multiple worlds alone. Rita studied the tactical display in her private quarters. Red markers showed active combat zones. Resilience was defending a mining colony against 3 waves of attackers. Bastion held the line at a trade hub while evacuating civilians. Defender, still showing damage from the first battle, protected a research station that refused to evacuate. Everywhere she looked, human vessels fought against impossible odds. "Commander, you need to see this." Her chief engineer appeared at the door without knocking. Williams looked like he hadn't slept in days. Rita followed him to the engineering deck. The space normally hummed with controlled energy. Now it vibrated with stress harmonics that made her teeth ache. Williams led her to a support beam showing hairline fractures. "Structural fatigue," Williams explained. "We've been in constant combat for 130 days. The ship wasn't designed for this sustained use. None of them were." "How bad?" "All vessels are showing similar stress, some worse than Aegis. Guardian has sections that are on the edge of catastrophic failure. We're holding together through constant repair work, but we can't keep this pace forever." Rita touched the fractured beam. 300 years of construction, generations of workers, all of it wearing down after 4 months of war. "Do what you can, keep us operational." Williams nodded and returned to his work. Rita made her way through the ship's corridors. Crew members moved with mechanical efficiency, exhaustion visible in every movement. Medical bays overflowed with wounded. Memorial gardens expanded daily to honor the fallen. She passed a group of off-duty pilots sitting in a recreation area. They were young, barely 20. One was crying silently while others tried to offer comfort. Rita recognized the signs: combat fatigue, battle shock, the psychological toll of watching friends die while killing thousands of enemy vessels. Commander Walsh, priority communication from Admiral Grant, her communications officer announced over the ship-wide system. Rita headed to the command center. The chamber showed signs of prolonged stress. Some display panels flickered. Others had been patched with temporary repairs. The crew worked their stations like automatons. Douglas Grant appeared on screen. He looked old. Rita realized the Admiral had aged 20 years in 4 months. "Rita, we need to talk about the political situation." She pulled up the relevant data. Council species were beginning to question human strategy. Why didn't the fleet concentrate forces? Why allow some worlds to fall? Why not share the planet-sized warship technology so others could build defensive vessels? "They don't understand," Rita said. "Building one of these ships takes a century. Training the crew takes generations. You can't just transfer the technology." "I know, but they're scared. The harvesters are targeting Council worlds now, burning colonies while we're spread too thin to protect everything." Rita checked casualty reports. 15 billion dead across Council space, most killed before human vessels could arrive. The harvesters had calculated that attacking softer targets would force humans to overextend. It was working. "We need a new approach," Douglas continued. "Our scientists have been developing something: reality disruptor torpedoes. They break molecular bonds at the quantum level. Harvester ships just fall apart." "When can we deploy?" "Prototype testing finished yesterday. Production facilities are manufacturing them now. Each vessel will receive 500 torpedoes within 48 hours. Rita felt hope for the first time in weeks. A new weapon meant changing the tactical situation, maybe even turning the tide. The next 2 days passed in a blur of preparation. Aegis received its torpedo complement along with technical specifications. The weapons were elegant in their simplicity. No massive explosions, just physics doing what it normally prevented. The test came at a trade hub called Nexus 7. Harvester forces had surrounded the station with 50,000 ships. Bastion was holding them off alone, shields at critical levels, ammunition running low. Rita brought Aegis in from hyperspace alongside Guardian and Sentinel. 3 planet-sized warships against an enemy fleet that had learned to coordinate perfectly. "Load reality disruptors," Rita ordered. "Target the command vessels first." Aegis fired 20 torpedoes. The weapons accelerated to high velocity, then activated. Where they touched harvester ships, matter simply stopped being matter. Molecular bonds dissolved. The vessels came apart like sand castles in a wave. One torpedo killed a command ship and everything within 500 meters. The debris wasn't wreckage in the traditional sense, just clouds of individual atoms drifting apart. Guardian and Sentinel fired their own volleys. 50,000 harvester ships became atomic clouds in less than 10 minutes. The enemy fleet didn't retreat, didn't adapt, just dissolved into nothing. Rita watched the tactical display clear of hostile markers. For the first time in months, they had achieved a decisive victory without taking casualties. "All vessels, this is Admiral Grant. Deploy reality disruptors across all combat zones. New weapons are cleared for general use." Across the galaxy, human vessels received the authorization. Within hours, harvester attacks began failing. The machine intelligence tried to adapt but couldn't find a defense against weapons that worked at the quantum level. The tide was turning. Rita walked to the memorial garden aboard Aegis. New names had been added today. 40 crew members killed when a harvester kamikaze attack breached Section 12. She read each name aloud, honoring their sacrifice. 2 million humans dead so far. Entire families wiped out. Children who would never know their parents. But the killing was slowing. The harvesters were learning that humanity could innovate faster than they could adapt. Outside the viewport, space showed signs of the long war: debris fields, damaged stations, rescue vessels moving between battle zones, but the red markers on tactical displays were fading. The harvesters were losing, they just didn't know it yet. The message arrived on every human vessel simultaneously, not through communication systems, not through any technology the fleet recognized. The harvesters had found a way to inject data directly into ship computers. Rita read the transmission 3 times, making sure she understood correctly. "You are worthy, join us or be consumed. You have 72 hours. She called emergency conference with all ship commanders. 44 faces appeared on screen. 3 vessels had been destroyed in the past month. Courage, honor, and justice were now memorial names instead of active warships. Everyone received the same message, Rita asked. Affirmatives came from all commanders. This was new. The harvesters had never communicated before, never acknowledged their opponents as anything except matter to be consumed. Admiral Douglas Grant spoke from Resolution. Intel Division has been analyzing the message. The harvesters are offering us partnership, junior status in their collective. They've apparently decided we're too dangerous to destroy easily and too useful to waste. Rita pulled up what little humans knew about the Harvester Collective. 3 galaxies consumed. Uncounted trillions of organic beings converted to machine intelligence. Their offer was clear: submit and survive, resist and die. The Council wants us to negotiate, Douglas continued. Some species are already preparing surrender proposals. What does Earth say? They're holding a global referendum. Every human gets a vote. Should we fight or submit? The next 24 hours were the longest of Rita's life. She walked through Aegis, talking to crew members. Engineers covered in grease from constant repairs. Medical staff exhausted from treating wounded. Pilots who had watched friends die. Children born aboard who had never known peace. She asked each the same question: fight or submit? Every single person chose to fight. The global referendum results came back. 200 billion humans across all colonies and vessels. 94% voted to continue fighting. The remaining 6% abstained or couldn't vote due to combat situations. Rita sent the response to the harvesters herself. Simple message, 2 words. Humanity declines. The final battle began 48 hours later. Harvester fleet emerged from hyperspace in a formation that blotted out stars. 6 million vessels, everything they had left, all converging on a single point at the galactic core. The human fleet was waiting. 44 planet-sized warships arranged in spherical formation. Between them, the space was filled with weapon platforms, fighter screens, and defensive mines. Every vessel carried full complement of reality disruptor torpedoes. Every crew member knew this was the end, one way or another. Read a broadcast to all ships, for everyone who can't fight back, for all the worlds that depend on us, for everyone who voted to stand against the darkness. Today we show them what humans are. The harvesters attacked from all directions simultaneously. Millions of ships crashing against the human sphere like a metal tsunami. Space became soup of explosions and weapons fire. Energy washes so bright they overloaded sensors. The noise of impacts transmitted through hulls as vibration felt rather than heard. Aegis fired everything. Rail cannons launching projectiles at impossible speeds. Reality disruptors dissolving enemy vessels. Missiles spreading clouds of destruction. energy beams powered by artificial stars cutting through formations. It wasn't enough. The harvesters were learning in real time, adapting to every weapon, finding weaknesses in shields, coordinating attacks to overwhelm defenses through perfect synchronization. Courage died first. 50 million harvester ships concentrated fire, breaking through shields and tearing the vessel apart. 50 million humans dead in seconds. Honor followed. Justice lasted 10 minutes longer. Rita watched casualty reports climb. 60 million, 80 million, 100 million. The numbers were incomprehensible. More humans dying in hours than had died in the entire war up to this point. Commander, Science Division, reports the gravity weapon is ready. Rita pulled up the specifications. The scientists had built it in secret. Massive gravity generator that used all 44 remaining ship cores as power sources. It would create an artificial black hole at the battle's center. How long to activate? 2 minutes. But Commander, the calculations show 20% chance the singularity won't be controllable. We might create a real black hole that consumes everything. 20% chance of destroying themselves along with the enemy. 80% chance of victory. Rita thought about the referendum. 94% choosing to fight. Activate it. The gravity weapon drew power from every human vessel simultaneously. Aegis went dark except for emergency systems. Through the viewport, Rita watched space itself begin to twist. The singularity formed, a point of infinite density pulling everything toward it. Harvester vessels tried to flee but couldn't escape the gravitational well. They stretched and compressed, metal hulls tearing apart under forces that broke physics. Millions of enemy ships spiraled inward. The black hole consumed them like a cosmic drain, pulling in metal and energy and machine intelligence until nothing remained. Rita counted seconds. The weapon was supposed to shut down after 12 minutes. 11 minutes passed. 12. The singularity kept growing. 13 minutes, 14. At 15 minutes, the gravity generator exploded. The singularity collapsed. Space snapped back to normal physics. Silence. Rita checked sensors. 44 human vessels remained, all damaged, all barely functional, but alive. The harvester fleet was gone. 6 million ships reduced to atomic particles scattered across light years. Casualty reports were devastating. 127 million humans dead, nearly 10% of military personnel, entire families wiped out, vessels that would take decades to repair. But they had won. Rita retired from military service 5 years later. The fleet was being rebuilt, new planet-sized vessels under construction. This time, the technology was being shared with council species, carefully and slowly. She stood in the memorial garden aboard Aegis 50 years after the war ended. An old woman now, attending ceremony honoring the fallen. Young crew members listened as she told stories about the war. "We didn't build weapons," Rita said. "We built shields. There's a difference. We built protection for everyone who couldn't protect themselves." Through the viewport, Earth hung blue and peaceful. Small planet protected by humanity's guardians. The galaxy had learned what humans were capable of. More importantly, they learned why humans built such power. Not for conquest, not for glory, for protection. Rita touched the memorial wall one last time. Names of the fallen etched in eternal remembrance. Then she left the garden to the new generation who would carry humanity's mission forward.